gorilla stomping in a zoo. Check the vocals, animals gather right.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. On today's video I'm going to be continuing construction on the rabbit house because as of tomorrow I got some more bunnies coming here. So I'm going to need some separation areas for the bucks and the does to make sure we don't get any inadvertent breeding happening right yet. Alright, we're not ready for kindling at this point in time, so really need to get this finished up. It may stay where it is, or it may make its way up into the coop, but I need it ASAP for separating those rabbits when I get them tomorrow. So I'm going to start off today by working on the roof again, and it's only a little bit left to get the roof finished. In particular, it's these sides right here. I want to get some trim on there. And it's going to take a few little intricate cuts to get what I'm looking for, but it could be done a lot simpler, of course. But as well, I need some doors. Alright, no good putting a bunny in there if they don't have a door to keep them in place so that they're hopping out and mingling with each other. So that's what the agenda of today is. I need this finished up, at least ready to house some bunnies by tomorrow. And so that's going to take us through the rest of this video, getting this piece together, some doors made, and finishing the trim on the roof. So with all that said, let's get started and start working on this side trim here. So to let you guys in on what I'm thinking for the side trim, is I'm thinking that I'm going to use one of my 2x4s that was ripped in half, and I'm going to be putting that in between the cross runners, but I kind of want to complete a squared off look. So if you can tell, with this running right now, we got a little gap here, then we got a little angled bit here, and then the rest travels down. And the same kind of thing on the back, a little bit of angling to give it that squared off finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this to length first, which will cover front to back in length, and then I'm going to hold it in place. See if I can balance it here. Kind of hold it in place like this, and then I'll trace the inside, and it's going to end up with a few jagged looking cuts, but hopefully it'll fit in like a puzzle piece and kind of create this side finish that looks like it's coming from this far corner straight back and joining on here with like a squared off nice finished look. So that's what I got pictured in my head. I don't know how well that's going to come out and translate to the real world, but in my head I see it working, and of course it's going to need some Donkey Kong glue to secure this little triangular piece I'm going to end up with. And I'll use my jigsaw to make those cuts, and hopefully it'll work out. Alright, so I'm going to start off, get my measurement from front to back here, and that'll dictate how much of this 2x4 I use, or it's a 1.5 by 1 3/4 right now is the dimensions of this. And get to some tracing and some cutting. Let's see how it turns out. Should be interesting. So the piece I'm looking at is definitely going to be covering from the front here down to the end of the back. And that's 30 inches exactly. Just going to mark off 30 inches on this piece of wood, using my best piece on it. So I'm just about ready to do some tracing. So one thing I'm doing is getting a really fine point put on my pencil, because I'm going to be really trying to trace this down to a fine point of accuracy, we'll say. So that's the beauty of these carpenter pencils, is you can make it to your own likings, fit it to the purpose you need. And as of now, I want a narrow, fine point on this. So I'll just whittle away at this until I got what I want, and then we'll get to the tracing. Alright, so I got my pencil down to a pretty good point. Alright, should be fairly accurate. But the big thing now is getting this board lined up and keeping it in place long enough for me to get the tracing done without it moving. And as you can tell, it's not a good area for clamping or anything like that. So it should be interesting trying to keep that in place with a grip just like this. I'm going to start tracing around the end points here now and hopefully get some good accurate markings on there. And there we are, markings are done. So I'm going to get my jigsaw now and cut those out, and we'll see what kind of fitment we get. Alright, so with those cuts done, it's time to take our piece. Like I say, a little bit of awkward cutting, but I just want to see what this is going to turn out like. So I'll fit it into place and let's have a look. So it's close to what I'm looking for, but it's still a little bit, some of the tracing might not have been exact. But I do have a gap here that I need to close up. And the back, I think I don't really need this tail on it. I think I can take that off. So for this purpose now, I'm going to get my table saw so that I can gently remove some of the material here to bring the whole thing up and close this gap. And I think I will take this tail off and bring this material up probably an eighth or so as well, and that should hopefully close everything up the way I want it to look. So as of now, I don't really need this tail. I don't want it down lower than what the rear runner is. Alright, so we're getting there. One more little bit of modification, I think we'll be alright. So I'll grab the table saw and we'll just do a couple of runs, and hopefully this will end up where we need it to be after that. So again, I'm just going to be taking off a very small amount of material off the top and the bottom. Let's just size up now how much that's going to remove. That should be pretty good there. Lock my fence in place. Alright, should be good to go. Hopefully this little gap is enough for the material I'm cutting off to slip through. But let's go. Alright, so I got the material removed from that side. I'm going to do the same again now on this side. Alright, and I'll take this little tail off. Just a quick little cut with the jigsaw, that'll be gone. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and take this little tail off real quick. easy. Okay, and let's test our fitment. Look at that. Awesome. Absolutely awesome, like a glove. Alright, so that is this side trim done. I'm going to actually take this piece and go test it on the other side, make sure everything turned out equal, and then I'll use this as a template to do the next one. Okay, so I tested that one on the other side, and that is indeed exactly what I needed. Okay, so this is going to be the same pattern. Try and find the best way to do some easy cuts. Just line it up along the bottom here would be easiest. So instead of having to take material off both sides, I'll just trace this down and I'll be able to do one run on the table saw, and the rest with the jigsaw should be fine. There we are. So I'll get those cuts done with the jigsaw first. Actually, I'll go to the table saw and take off that little bit of material first, and then I'll do the jigsaw. So I'm going to start off right there, see if that gets me where I need to be. Alright. Now for this bit here, I think I'm just going to use the table saw and take this little edge off. Since I got it here, and I'll take this corner off with the jigsaw. There we are. We got our side ones cut, ready to go on. Again, that's going to be the fitment right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my clamps, I'll glue this, get some screws into it, and we're good. Okay, so let's get some glue on there. Get rid of the old stuff. And get it lathered up. Get that laid in place. There we are. So let's get some screws put in that now to hold it in place, and we will be good to do the other side as well. So I'm going to do the second side here now, and I'll be honest, the second side didn't come out as nice as the first. I'm not sure, the first piece fit in here nicely, but once I did the template and cut it, it just didn't, it wasn't as nice. So I got a few like little gaps and stuff compared to the first side. And I had to straighten it up a little bit on the table saw, and I overcut a little bit. But I'm going to fix all that with, guess what? Caulking. Alright, between caulking and glue, this will be just fine. Fill in a few gaps. But otherwise, this is lovely. Alright, that'll turn out beautifully. So let's get some glue on there, get that glued in place. Glued and screwed. So we'll lather up this piece now as well. There we are. Let's get some screws in that now. Alright, so that's the two sides done, the trim anyways around it. And while I wait for that glue to set up before I put some caulking on this end here, just got a little bit of 60 grit sandpaper. Just going to go along this front edge, take off some of those plywood burrs and splinters. And you know, it's just something to do while the glue sets, and add a little bit of finesse to it. Not a big amount obviously, it's only sandpaper. Okay, and now just to take care of this little gap that I ended up with, some caulking to go in there. And give that a good push to fill it up. Just trying to force it into the gap, acting like a wood filler really. I do have wood filler, I probably could have just used that. I got the caulking already in the gun, so that's what I'm using. And there we are. Alright, I think this is a pretty successful lid if I do say so myself. Like I said, the only downfall I see of this lid is where it encompasses all four bays. You know, if you open it up, you have the possibility of all four rabbits jumping out. But for the amount of times that I'm going to be opening this to do like a big clean out or something like that, it's not going to be a worry, because if I'm accessing the bunnies, it's going to be from the front doors, and if they're either a bit defensive, I'll have a glove on in case they try to bite and stuff. So I should be able to do most of my work in maintaining the bunnies from the front doors by opening up the door and reaching in there. So this lid is mainly just going to be like a once in a blue moon type access if I really need to get in there and do a deep cleaning, you know, really get in there and do some kind of maintenance. Then at that point I would be able to lift the whole thing up and access the bunnies. So just to give you an idea now of how much play I end up leaving with the lid, I'll push it all the way to one side, all the way back. So about 1 inch of play, or a ½ inch per side when I put the hinges on it. And front to back is a little bit more than 1 inch, probably more like 2 inches of play, but that'll help me when it's mounted all the way forward like this. It'll definitely clear the sides. Right, so when this is mounted properly, that'll open and close no problem. Alright, so the lid is done. I gotta get some paint on it though. So since I got it here, it's in wide open access, I'm going to get some that nice ultra pure white, roll that on, get another roller out, get that rolled on, and we'll get this a couple of coats, let that set up, try to get it turned over, do the bottom, and the lid will be done, and I'll lay that aside. And then, hopefully I got some time, I need to get some doors made. I at least need 2 doors done, because I got 2 bucks up in that colony setting that I need to get put in here, and I'm going to let the does that I'm getting go into the colony setting. Those does are currently living together anyway, so this should be fine. And it'll just make it a bit easier to put the 2 bucks in here, because the bucks up in the coop there now, they're actually being pretty solitary. Right? One's usually just tucked away in a corner, the other one's usually tucked inside that blue Tupperware house that I got up there. So putting them inside these by themselves, I don't think is going to change any kind of quality of life for them. They seem to enjoy the solitude. If anything, it's probably an upgrade for them, so they're not picking at each other and biting each other. Whereas the does, I'm getting them as a pre-existing family from the same litter, and they seem to get along fine, no issues there. So I'll put them into the colony setting until I finish my big coop hutch system. And yeah. So the bucks may actually live in the garage here for a while, because I do need some more prep before I move this into the coop. And I kind of want to get the coop work done before I go moving this in there and having it in the way. So that's all future decisions to be made. The garage is heated, it's a wonderful environment. Won't be any issue to keep them in here while I finish the work up in the coop. Alright, so that's my little breakdown of future plans. But as for now, I got to get some paint put out into a tray, get the roller, and get some coats on this. Judging by the red, it should dry pretty quickly and get a couple of coats on nice and fast, and then I'll work on the doors. Alright, I don't have any more tray liners, so I'm just going to use the tray itself and clean it up when I'm done. But let's get some ultra pure white put in here, and let's say that's okay. So he has paint and primer in one, so that's the same as I was using with the red. Exterior white, ultra pure white, exterior flat, I should say. So let's pop this open. So ideally this will go on just as fast as the red did. That's one of the big reasons I want to use a roller on this, and was willing to put paint into the online tray, because rolling on that red was so much easier than doing the inside by hand. So again, brand new roller, gonna have to get this good and saturated. And this should go relatively quick, like I said. Alright, so I'm just going to start with the top. Going on good and thick. Like I said with the last time with the red, this is brand new plywood, so it's going to soak up the paint more. So I could end up refilling that tray again, even though I kind of figured it might be enough, but judging by how much it's using right now, it's probably going to need a couple of refills. We'll see. Alright, first coat is on the roof. Have a look. Loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. The look is what I was looking for. Turning out great. What can you ask for? a job coming into the completion phase. Very exciting, and especially after this being so long. Like, this project has been going on way too long, absolutely way too long. Had some hurdles to get over along the way, but like I say, with rabbits coming tomorrow, you know, this thing is finally going to be put into use, and I think all the hard work will pay off. And again, I've said it in other videos that a big part of this is the hobby, the, you know, keeping yourself occupied, feeling good about progress. But I love, absolutely love the result of getting something that you had in your mind and picturing it in your imagination and bringing it into the real world. And I've mentioned it in another video before, but I really find it fascinating when you get these, you know, basic skills, really. Like, this is not intricate stuff. It's just, you know, learning a little bit here and there, putting a few practices to work. Getting the tools was the biggest hurdle, the investment in the tools to make it, you know, a bit more fine-tuned. But I've done projects like this before with just a skill saw, right? So, you know, you don't need the miter saw, the table saw, you know, everything all together. If you just got a skill saw and a steady hand and a good ruler, you know, you can do this. But, you know, getting that imaginary rabbit house that I had in my mind into the real world, it's like something out of childhood, you know, when you used to imagine those little racetracks in your sandbox and stuff, and you made the little town and you're imagining the little town. Well, this is what I pictured in my head. This is, before any of this began, this is what I saw, and it's amazing to bring it into the real world, and hopefully it plays a good role on our land here and with our animals, and hopefully they enjoy it. So I'm going to let this first coat dry. I'll do a second coat off camera. You guys have seen me paint before, so I'm not going to bother you with that. But I'm just going to hang out here probably for a half hour while this dries up and listen to a few tunes and just enjoy my day in the shop. Is really what it comes down to, is just enjoying your day and your spare time, using your hands, bringing your imagination to life, and hopefully end up with a nice result for your animals at the end of the day, and enjoying those animals. So there we go. I'll be back in a jiffy for you, and a second coat will be on the roof, and then I'll see about turning it over or on its side, something to be able to do the bottom, since I'm already at it. And after that, it'll be time to make some doors. See ya in a couple seconds. Alright, so off camera I did another coat on the roof there. So that is done. It's just about set up, but there is a few little wet spots. So I'm going to let that continue to dry. But since it is mostly dry, I don't mind kicking up a little bit of sawdust in the garage here again now. So I'm going to get to work on the doors. Now these doors, when I made the initial measurements, are about 8 inches by 8 inches. Now some of them, just from the width of the skill saw blade, they're like 8 inches and an eighth. And but I'm going to stick with 8 inches as my measurement to go by. But from the bottom of the coop to the opening of the doorway is 2.5 inches. So I want my door to cover that 2.5 inches, and ideally, just for looks and aesthetics, be flush with the bottom of the coop. So I'm going to have a 2.5 inch thick board, or wide board, sorry, frame for the door itself, and I want that to be uniform the whole way around. So I'm going to be using my table saw to get that 2.5 inch cut on the boards that I'm using. And speaking of which, the boards that I'm using are actually some leftover cedar decking boards that I use for my raised garden beds. And when I bought these cedar boards in the beginning, Home Depot only had 10-foot lengths. And I was a little bit disappointed. It was a little bit of wastage, extra material. But I kind of knew that at some point they'd come in handy. And here we are. So this is a 1 inch, it's a 1x6, but really it's a full inch thick though. And there you go, full inch thick, but it's about 5.5, there we go, 5.5 in width. So I need to rip this 5.5 down to a 2.5, And I'm going, like I said, I'm going to be carrying that. The whole frame of each door is going to be 2.5 in width for each part of the frame. So I'm going to use my table saw, rip these down to 2.5 inch wide boards, and overall measurement we got 2.5 plus the door is 8 plus another 2.5, so we're talking 5 and 8 is 13 inches total, and so we'll be doing 13 inch lengths with 2.5 inch wide. So there you go, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to hit up the table saw, start getting these run through, and get my 2.5 inch boards done. So I got my 2.5 inch widths done here now. So the next thing I need is 13 inch lengths. Now I think most of these are 26 inches and a bit. So I'm going to set up my table fence at 13 inches and start running them through on the table saw, just instead of doing like skill saw cuts over and over. So I'll set this at 13 and an 1/8 or a 1/16, and that'll give me, should give me exactly 13 inches to the blade. And I need 16 boards altogether, so just as well to have 8 of these ready to go, because each one is 26 inches. It'll give me 2 boards, and that leaves me with 4 extras that I did. So with all those boards cut now, thankfully I believe I'm done with the table saw. So I'm gonna potentially jinx myself and put it away. The battery was starting to die at the end there. I got another one, but I think we managed to finish the job there. I don't foresee any more table saw cutting at this point in time. So I'll get this battery laid over here and we'll get this table saw out of the way. So we're gonna need a bit of assembly space for 4 doors. Alright, so I got 16 now of these 13 inch boards of cedar, and the nice thing about the cedar decking planks is they kind of have this rounded profile on both ends. So here's the side I cut, which is squared off, but we have this rounded kind of profile beveled edge. So I want that beveled edge to be to the outside of the frames of all my doors. Particular, I know, but you know, we're going for a little bit of aesthetic appeal here. So 4 boards per door, going to need 45-degree angles, and then join all 4 boards and we'll have a complete frame. So although we got the table saw put away, it's over to the miter saw. I got my miter saw set at 45 degrees, and I'm going to be making sure to preserve full length. So I need to line up my saw to only cut right to the corner, right? No further in, no further out. Just I want a straight 45 from the corner in. And that'll preserve my full 13 inch length and give me my nice 45s that I'm looking for. So overall we should have a nice frame by the time all this is done. So I'm not going to show you cutting all 16 boards twice. It's 32 cuts. That'll be a little bit over the top, don't you think? But I'm just going to get cutting here now. Maybe I might record it all, throw it in a little bit of fast forward, and see how long it takes me. So So I'll let you know at the end a roundabout length of time it takes me to do this. Alright, so that's 32 cuts done, and that took about 8 minutes. So, not too bad, but I need to find a spot for assembly now, because I don't want to assemble on top of the roof of the coop, because it's still, you know, curing up and drying there. So I got to figure out where I'm going to put all these together. I may still use the top of the coop yet, we'll see. As well, before I figure out where I'm going to put these together, I just want to show you the end result. Okay, so that's a 13 inches from longest end to longest end, and 2 of these together line up nicely. Alright, so 4 of these will make a lovely little door frame with an 8 by 8 inch opening. Not bad, hey? Alright, I'm going to find a spot to put this together, and it's going to take a little bit of assembly time, but let's get going. Well, it turns out that the top of the rabbit coop, or the rabbit house, is the best spot I got. So it's going to have to do for assembly, but I'm going to show you now. I'm sure you figured it out by now, but the layout of each door will be 4 boards, and they're going to join up like so. Alright, so that's pretty nice. Looks good. So, pretty simple, just Donkey Kong glue in the seams. And I got my air compressor on and charged. And I'm going to be using a finishing nailer with 2-inch nails in it. So I'll be watching my fingers closely. Keep in mind, finishing nails, brad nails, whatever you want to call them, they're meant more so to hold things in place while the glue cures. So they are to be used in combination with glue. They're not a strengthening nail per se. So I'm just going to bring you in a little bit closer, and we'll start putting this together. And I got 4 of these to do. So let's see how long it takes. I'll do the first one with you, and then we'll speed on through the last 3. Alright, so I'm going to try and be a little tidy with my glue, but I'm honestly not really concerned. I'm just going to put that much on one, smear it up together with the one it's mating to, get them lined up, get my finishing nailer ready, keep my fingers as clear as possible. There we are, first nail's in. I do have my safety glasses on. Get one more nail in here. There we are, it's pretty good. Could be a little bit tighter of a join. I'll try just giving that a couple little smacks with the hammer just to see if it draws it a little tighter. So with the first side attached, I'll continue on now and we'll finish the whole frame. And there we are, that's our first frame finished. And I'll move on and do the other 3. Just gonna briefly come in with you guys for a second and just show you why you keep your hands clear of the nailing path. Alright? Be wary. Be aware of what can happen if you have a deflection in your nail. Right? If your hand was there, that would be in it right now. So I had to cut that off. I think I'll just snip it instead of trying to get it to back out and continue on. Okay, so here are the 4 completed frames. Everything looks great. So, what I'm going to do now, since I already got my white paint roller out, is just as well to put a coat on them. So let's do that now. Get it started. Be nice and quick and dirty. Nothing too spectacular with these. Just slap it on there. Alright, like this is my kind of painting right here. Just whack it on there. No big particular thing. Just get it done. Alright, nice heavy coat on them. You know, wouldn't hurt to just do around the edges. You know, just get it done. That's how we do it here. Just get it done. So, I did some more painting off camera. I figured, you know what, this video is getting a little bit overloaded on the painting side of things. So, anyways, off camera, finished painting up the upper side of the frames, we'll call it. I still need to do one other side, but I actually got 2 coats on these frames right now. Frames turned out great, no issues so far with those. As far as like strength of them goes, maybe over time I'd want to screw on some L brackets, but I don't think I will because I'm going to be meshing over these doors, and I think as long as I pull the mesh good and tight and staple it on well, that's going to provide that kind of twisting force strength and provide those doors with that added strength, like I say. So I think they're all going to be great. I'm just letting them dry right now. And when they're dry, I'll flip them over, put a couple of coats on the back side of them, let them dry again, and that'll be done. Then it'll be ready for mesh and to be installed. Like I say, trying to get a lot done today, all in one go. So I'm just kind of pushing through. The worst part is the waiting for the paint to dry. You know, as the saying goes, it's like watching paint dry. Well, I'm literally here watching paint dry. So it's kind of boring. I got the music on in between, and you know, just spending the day. So I'm gonna keep on cracking through. Hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. It's nice to see this, like I say, coming to some form of completion. And I'm really pushing through because I got those bunnies coming tomorrow, and I need to be ready. So that's it for now. I'll see you in another couple seconds. We'll get in and do the other side of these frames. And let's see how much I get done in this video. Hopefully it'll be all of it, but we'll see. Back to it. So I've gone ahead, flipped the frames over, the tops are dry. Literally, again, watching paint dry here. But yeah, so I'm ready to put a coating on the other side. So far it looks to be turning out good. The cedar, even despite having 2 coats on, some of the cedar features, that's the best way I can describe it, the features of the cedar, like the knots and stuff, are still kind of showing through. But overall, so far so good. Just going to get a quick first coat on these now. Again, putting it on heavy adds to the drying time, but I find that the coverage ends up being better just to put it on heavy. So like I say, time is ticking by as far as what I had allotted for work today on this coop, on the rabbit house, but like I say, I'm down to the wire now for getting new bunnies. So I gotta kind of keep pushing through, and my Achilles heel is the drying time of the paint. So that's the only thing I need to deal with, is the drying time of the paint. Other than that, I would be probably have these mounted by now. As you can see, painting them is no problem. It's quick to get the paint on. Just waiting for the drying. And there we are. That's the first coat done. Be back with you again. I'm going to do the second coat off camera. So when I come back, these doors should be fully dry, however long that takes. But again, for you, a couple of seconds, pretty convenient for you, isn't it? Alright, we'll see you in a couple of seconds. Also, just to be a bit productive, while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I got some mesh here, and I'm going to be cutting out 12 inch by 12 inch squares, and that'll be going stapled onto the doors, and that's what's going to keep the bunnies from getting out. So I've gone ahead, marked it with a Sharpie where I need to cut, but I can't see. I'll put my hand behind, see my markings there. So I'm just going to do 4 squares of 12 inches by 12 inches, just using tin snips, nothing major, nothing wild and wonderful, and just cuts through it like butter. Alright, so figured I'd just tell you what I'm doing off camera here. I'm just going to be sat down, listening to some music, and cutting out some mesh while that paint dries. So don't be surprised when I come back and I have 4 of these done. frames are almost dry now. They're at the point where I can kind of handle them without sticking onto them at least. So I want to try and get ahead of the game a little bit because I'm kind of running out of time here. A smidge. So I got these basic little hinges from Home Depot, you know, usual shopping shop. And basically I'm just going to start mounting them onto the doors. And I need to allow enough space for the mesh to fit in there without making the door kind of want to force open from tightness. So I'm going to mount it so that the pin area, this round area here, I'm going to have that so that it's just below the door level. I just want to try and get ahead of the game. Like I say, I'm running out of time here a bit. And I don't want to be doing this tomorrow when I got 3 bunnies in a crate after being picked up. So see if I can safely slide all this over here. So I want to bring the frame close to me, like such. And so basically I'm going to be mounting it somewhere around here and have the thickness of the mesh. So I'm pretty much going to be running my screws into the middle of the thickness of the board. And we'll start with the first hinge. You'll see where I place that. As well, I've chosen the best side of the door, the best aesthetic side of the door to show outwards. Basically it's going to be right about there. These are very fine thread screws, so I'm going to be very careful not to over tighten them or anything, because they can strip very easily. Just like such. That's looking even all the way across, so I'll continue to get that mounted in there. There we are. So that's one hinge mounted. I'll put another up closer to you guys there now. Just dangle it over the edge to help me. And as far as distance from the top of the door, I'm just kind of eyeballing that. And then I'm just aiming the screws for the middle of the thickness. As you can tell, the paint's still a bit sticky. The hinge is holding itself on. So this is just going to make putting the doors on a lot easier, having this part of the hinge already mounted. Alright, so that's all I need to show you there. I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 doors exactly the same way, and we'll have that done. Hopefully by the time I'm done that, the paint will be dry enough that we can start attaching the mesh. Okay, so it's getting pretty ironic here now because I'm getting down to the wire in time, but we're literally at the wire mesh. So we need to get this on ASAP. So I need to clue up and go somewhere. So I'm going to get this mesh button down here. Just going to staple it on, and that should be good. Not being too particular, but particular at the same time. Big thing is you don't want any sharp edges that could hurt your bunnies, but we're not going to worry about that because the mesh is 12 by 12 and the opening is 8 by 8. So there's not going to be any sharp openings near the opening. Sharp endings, I should say. There we are. That's the first one done. Take that and move it out of the way. And here's the product of that. Okay, pretty easy. Easy peasy. So I'm going to go ahead, do the other three, and the doors will be ready for mounting. Now that the mesh is mounted onto the doors, we're finally at the point of putting them on the rabbit house. So I'm not going to waste any time, I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to use, kind of just a general swing direction. Probably the two left ones can swing left, the two right ones can swing right. Really no big deal. That looks even there. So I'm just going to try and get a screw into one of these hinges in the right spot without dropping the door. Alright, see if I can get one in the bottom hinge now, and we should be good. There we are. That's how it's going to go, right there. There we are. First door attached. Opens great, closes great. Perfect. Now, to move on to the next one, we'll do another left swing, and I'll just continue on putting these on the rabbit house, and hopefully it won't take very long at all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the rabbit house. I still got a few little things to do. I'm going to do that off camera. It's just a little bit of door hardware just to put a latch on each of the doors. But I'm out of time. I need to finish for today. But this is done. It's ready for occupancy. A few little things, like I say, a little bit of paint on the inside of the lid maybe, not a big deal. Bit of door hardware gonna happen later. Overall, this is the rabbit house. It's complete after way too long a time. Absolutely way too long. Finally, this is pretty much the finish line. Except, I still have to do a base for it to sit on. Totally different. It'll be another video later. But as far as the house itself, finally, it is done. Alright, so if you followed this series, I can't really thank you enough because you've had a lot of patience. You've dealt with really long videos. You've dealt with a really long time with little steps of progression. And here we are finally at the end of this part of the build. It's ready for occupancy. Like I said, there's going to be rabbits in here tomorrow. So overall, I think it turned out really good. I'm really pleased with it. Just happy to have it done at this point. Like I say, anything else from here is just icing on the cake, easy peasy. But to get it to this stage was a lot of planning, a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of hurdles along the way to overcome in order to keep the motivation flowing and to get out here and do this. So I'm going to officially call the rabbit house section done. Okay? And yeah, so thank you very much for joining me on this journey. You'll see this in future videos with the few little finishing touches, but really it's just a couple of slider bolts for the doors to keep them shut. And that's it, really. A base for it to sit on. This is the rabbit house. That's good. Alright, so with all those thanks said, and I really do mean it, if there's any of you that are watching this that haven't subscribed or liked the video or shared it, whatever you want to do to help this channel grow, all that helps, and I'd appreciate you doing any or all of it. But you know what? This content is fun for me to make. I enjoy watching it myself afterwards. My family enjoys watching it. They see where things are coming from. And it's just a pleasure to be putting these videos out. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. And with that, I'm out of here. So until the next video happens, hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, take care of each other, and peace out.